What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Simple Songwriting. It is your host, Cameron. I am here today talking about Manchild, the latest single from Sabrina Carpenter. It's the lead single for her upcoming album, Man's Best Friend. The song features Jack Antonoff and Amy Allen and as co-producers. And yeah, it just released, so we're going to be diving into it. It's a cool, fun song, but maybe it's not as cute as it seems at first. So why don't we just get started? And we'll talk about it as we go along. Cause I think it's the type of song that's meant to be very, it's meant to be soft spoken and kind of innocent, but then as it goes along, it starts to feel just a little sinister. So let's dive into it. I'm just gonna get it started.
Oh boy.
All right, so we start off with a little ad lib. It kind of sets the tone a little bit. It's got a double meaning, so it can be the phrase "oh boy" is an exasperated. That's it. Exasperated phrase where it's kind of like, oh, I'm tired of this. But then also you can say it's got a little bit of a literal meaning to it as well, but the song being about boys, specifically man children. It's fine. It's cute. It is what it is. You know, it's nothing crazy. I think that it might even be just a little too ambiguous even to like actually have any like weight to it. So it's just kind of this like bland little ad lib at the beginning. So let's keep going.
Oh boy.
All right. So right off the bat, this beat, which is just the most cliche beat of all time, right? It's just I don't think it's necessarily 4 on the floor, but it's just kick, snare, you know, it is just all the rage right now among female pop stars. Everyone seems to be using it. It's the same beat that we've heard on, you know, most of Billie Eilish's songs, Chapel Roan, Sabrina Carpenter's songs from last year. It's just this, you know, little drum beat. It just seems to be the, you know, what everyone likes or what all the girl stars are digging right now. I personally think it's just super cliche. You know, it's kind of funny coming out of the last one I did, aside from the MGK breakdown, which was kind of like a quick thing that I did the other day, but I did Caramel a few episodes ago, and the drums on that album or on that song are just out of this world and such a great example of the potential of percussion and drums. And then you have this just awesome stuff. Not really. So anyway, but to be fair, it is a simple, fun, flexible beat, and it leaves a ton of room for the girl to sing. So yeah, it's very boring, but it leaves a lot of room. Next you have this little synth that comes in as well. The synth is, you know, it's not like so simple that it's mind numbing. It's actually got a nice little dun 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 dun. It's got a nice little groove to it. It's fine. I just don't think it's particularly like mind boggling by any stretch, but it's fun. It gets the job done, right? They also only play this synth for like 6 seconds by itself before the vocals come in, so it just sets the song up, and we're just rushing to get the vocals in, right? We're just rushing to get her to start singing because that's all that anyone really cares about on this song. No one's really looking at this song to be like an instrumental game changer or anything. So yeah, don't think too much about this. That their intention is for you to not think too much about it and to just sort of like go along. So here, let's play it again. So you see, it's not like super simple, but it's also not, you know, mind-blowingly complex either. It's just fine. I will say that the sound of the synth is very bland. And I've even seen a few TikToks where people are finding other songs from other artists where the exact same synth tone is used. Not good, you know. That's why you should do a little bit of audio engineering and work on your work on your tones a little bit. Even if it's just a bland synth tone, there's things that you can do to make it sound a little more unique and interesting. But anyway, that's really about it here. This synth plays throughout all of the verses and the bridge of this song. So it's like the main motif, but it's never really like standing out on its own because she sings over the whole rest of the song. So here we go. With that said, let's get into verse 1.
You said your phone was broken, just forgot to charge it. Whole outfit you're wearing, God, I hope it's ironic. Did you just say you're finished? Didn't know we started. It's all just so familiar, baby. What do you call it?
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. Her vocal melody is actually pretty cool. I kind of like it. It's a lot of what you would expect from Sabrina Carpenter. It's got this mix of high falsetto coming down to like twangy mids, that like said your phone was broken, just forgot to charge it. Whole outfit you're wearing, very much Dolly Parton, which I'll talk about that maybe a little bit later because I think that she pulls a little too much from Dolly Parton at some parts of the song. But here it's fine. Oh, it just started raining. So yeah, here it's fine. But, and then halfway through the verse, she gets this nice little harmony in the right. So, things stay interesting throughout this verse. I will say, in a lot of ways, this song is very well produced. It's very well structured. Everything is made to keep it interesting, on multiple listens. We'll talk about that actually in just a second because I want to talk about like the production of this song on like its own subject. Okay, but yeah, so there's a nice harmony that comes in halfway through. I think it's about right here. Listen for it in the right speaker. It's very well mixed in, so it's kind of hard to, if you're not used to listening to harmonies, you might not hear it on your own at first, but it enhances it a little bit, and because we're going to keep building towards the chorus. Lyrically, so yeah, the melody's cool. It's a nice melody. It's fun. It's poppy. It's got a little bop to it, in more ways than one. So I want to say, just going off of these first few verse lyrics, right? Something to be aware of with songs like this is that the aim is typically to frame the boy in like as worse of a light as possible, but keep things specific enough so that girls who listen can get that like I relate feeling. So what I mean by that is, there's lots of songs like this, and I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with songs like this, right? Where it's just girls complaining about boys, right? There's tons of songs, we've all heard them, but usually the way they go about that is that they want to have a broad conversation. They want to get to the broad point of just like calling out men for something, but the way that they'll do it is by starting with like these little specific things that are specific enough to make most girls go, oh yeah, that's happened to me, or like I relate to that, but broad enough, or if they specifically haven't dealt with it, maybe one of their friends has, but then like that kind of gets them into this mode of like, yeah, I relate to this, but then you start to broaden the topics a little bit, and it's this verse is a perfect example of that, right? So the hook, because I remember first time when I was analyzing the song, I was like, the first line is, you said your phone was broken, just forgot to charge it. It's like, to me, it felt like a little bit of a weak line to start the song with. But then I realized, I was like, well, this is the type of thing that men absolutely do. I mean, to be fair, women will do stuff like this too, but we're not talking about women. We're talking about the men, right? And so in this case, men have done this where it's like, oh, I couldn't text you back because my phone was broken. Oh, I forgot to charge it, right? And it's like, we're giving a very specific example of something that almost every girl, whether they personally have gone through it, they at least will know a girl who's gone through it. And so there's this immediate like, oh, I relate to that, right? It's relatable. So yeah, then you get the second line, which even though it's a little bit more broad, the hooks are kind of in there. And then you can start to list things that maybe are a little bit more generic, right? So we're getting all the girls on the same page with what this song is. So it's like, whole outfit you're wearing, God, I hope it's ironic. It's like every girl's probably looked at their guy at some point and thought like, what are you wearing? Like, why are you wearing that? And just because women in general are more fashionable, I think, than men, or more fashion conscious. Then we have the third line, which is, did you just say you're finished? Didn't know we started, which again, this doesn't literally need to happen to a girl for her to relate to this line. Every girl has probably gone through some instance of a man saying something along the lines of like, I'm done, I'm not talking to you anymore. And then she just thinks, oh, I don't care anymore. Like she's probably already checked out of it. So even if he doesn't explicitly say that, maybe he just says, oh, I'm leaving you, bye. She can even, think, oh, I why was I even into him to begin with, right? So there's just again, we start with that specific, like, phone was broken, forgot to charge it. Then we start to broaden, whole outfit. I hope it's ironic. You just said we're finished, didn't know we had started. And then she says, it's all just so familiar, baby. What do you call it? And so then that's when like that's what she's doing right now, is she's creating familiar situations that women can relate to when it comes to men, in order to get all of the women who are listening to the song on the same page about what this song is about. Right. So yeah, I would say at this point, the lyrics are fine. It's kind of normal, like girls being annoyed with men lyrics. There's like a million songs like this. There's tons of them. So to me, it's just a little bit cliche, and it's fine for now. But then we get into the pre-chorus. So let's talk about the pre-chorus real quick, or let's just play it.
Oh, just so familiar, baby. What do you call it? Stupid, or is it slow? Maybe it's useless, but there's a cuter word for it.
All right, so before we get into the chorus, we're going to pause and we're going to talk about this. So first, musically, this is probably the best part of the song. I actually think it's really cool musically, because there's this little guitar that comes in with a slide at the beginning of the pre-chorus. Here, let's play it. It's like right here. I clicked the wrong button. Hold on one second.
What do you call it?
That's like a cool little guitar part. I actually really like that. It's not often that you actually get like a semi-interesting guitar line in a pop song, so I appreciate it. Then we have, but what's really cool about it is that little melody, there is a third guitar in the middle of the mix, and it's a little bit quieter and a little more like softly mixed, but it kind of repeats it almost like an echo. So it's like a natural, like orchestrated echo. So it goes down, 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 do, 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 do. Listen to the guitars in the background.
Baby, what do you call it? Stupid, or is it?
You hear that? It almost sounds like a synth at first, but then you can hear it's like it is a guitar if you listen closely. But yeah, that da 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 down da down. Do, 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 do. I actually think that's really fun. And they keep repeating that throughout. So here, listen for the guitar specifically throughout this whole thing.
Or is it slow? Maybe it's
You hear how, so that little like so it's fun. Again, it's more musically complex than you would normally hear from songs like this. And then on top of that, the drums follow along with it too. And they've got a little fill with a crash on the snare. So yeah, listen to that again, because the drums are following that guitar. Dum 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 ba. Dum 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 ba da.
or is it?
Again, it's nothing mind blowing, right? But it is fun, and I like it. It's just a little bit of extra effort put into the instruments that makes it not just so bland like most of these songs. So, okay, so now let's talk about the lyrics, because this is where I think things start to get a little, I think they start to get just a little bit on the nose. Just to be clear, the lyrics are stupid, or is it slow? Maybe it's useless, but there's a cuter word for it. I know. Yeah. So I think before we can really discuss these lyrics, I want to talk about, the engineering of this song, right? So let's first and foremost, Jack Antonoff, who is Taylor Swift's like primary collaborator, he also produced this track along with 15 other engineers and artists. I just want y'all to think about that, right? Like there is a little army of people working on this song. This song is not just, I think that's a big misconception about music like this, is that it's just this girl writing out her frustrations. It's like, no. This is absolutely like a almost chemically engineered piece of music by a team of people at the record label to create a new lead single for one of the biggest pop stars in the industry at the moment. I mean, Sabrina Carpenter had the #1 single last year with Espresso, and this is meant to be the new lead single from her album. And so this isn't like singer, poor little girl sitting in her bedroom with an acoustic guitar writing about her frustrations with men. This song is absolutely manufactured to be a hit single and to get mainstream attention. So yeah, with that said, this song, more so than almost any song that you're going to hear this year, was engineered to be successful. And I think that that's a good indicator of where we're at with the music industry and what sells, which in this case, I would say is just straight up misandry. I think that we're at a point where women in a lot of ways dominate the music industry. They are the primary consumers of pretty much everything. But if you go to top albums and artists, with the exception of Sleep Token, funnily enough, just about every other artist there is a woman or a man catering to a woman, or catering to women, like Post Malone, Morgan Wallen, Benson Boone, like these songs about, like Benson Boone's song, like, please stay, I want you, I need you, oh God. It's like, that's a girl song. Like, that's a song girls sing. And so it's either like these love songs or writing about how miserable or broken they are. I mean, this is like the Zach Bryan effect of like, I'm a broken man and I need my girl. Like, there is in some way, a lot of these songs are meant to cater to women. Most men are not listening to the songs on the top 40. Now, with that said, let's think about songs from a decade ago, right? From female artists a decade ago. You have songs like songs from Lorde or Kesha, Katy Perry. I really like the song Team by Lorde. I think it's called Team. Where she talks about, we're on each other's team. I'm kind of over being told to throw my hands up in the air. So there. These songs back then were definitely critical of men. Like, songs being critical of men they've been around forever, right? But I do think that there was this element of like subtlety to them, and they were still fun. And I've just noticed this thing, and it's almost like a slow boil, right? Cooking a crab, how if you just throw it in boiling water, it freaks out and panics. But if you put it in the water and then you slowly heat it up, it doesn't notice until it's already basically dead from the boiling water. I think that that's almost where we're at with some of this, with like the flat out, like in your face misandry. Putting ghetto rap aside, which like rappers will, on both the male and the female side, will talk about how the other gender is just a bunch of stupid bitches or something, right? So just putting that aside, because that's just like the obvious, rappers talk shit about women. It's like, yeah, but so do Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and all that, right? So they'll talk about broke boys all day long. So putting that aside, imagine if someone like Benson Boone or Sleep Token or a big mainstream artist were to write an entire song about how stupid and incompetent women are. I think that there would be just this huge backlash, and it would be accused of misandry or misogyny, almost unanimously from everyone. Which is why this song is so interesting to me. I mean, she's just flat out saying like men are stupid and slow and useless, and it doesn't necessarily get better as the song goes on. Talking about how half our brains aren't there, and never heard of self-care. We're sexy, but we're so dumb. How did we even survive on the earth? It's like, imagine if a man wrote stuff like this, a popular mainstream artist wrote songs like this. I don't think that it would be met with any level of acclaim or applause from most people in the music industry. I'm not trying to like unpack the whole gender war, because Lord knows like that is a mess right now. It is like a huge topic at the moment, but I just want to point out what's happening here. I do think this song is a bit hateful. I think that it's a little spiteful, but it kind of pretends not to be. And there are, like, to the writer and the producer's credit, there are a lot of women who will relate to this. So it's not necessarily saying like, oh my God, there's something wrong with men or women. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out the dynamic that this is kind of where we're at as far as the music industry goes, where you get the biggest pop star and one of the biggest pop stars in the world, or at least the one that had the biggest song in the year prior. And you say, what do we need to do to get this new song and this new single to be a hit? And you get the biggest producer in the world, and you get the record label and a team of engineers, and there's no resource spared for this song to be the hit that it needs to be. And it's just going to be about how men are idiots. And that's where we're at, right? It's an interesting thing to think about. You know, I would almost say that it's borderline propaganda. Like, this is the type of stuff. I mean, because here's the thing, right? There are endless stories from both men and women about the torment that they've endured from each other. Like, tons of men have had horrible, horrible experiences with women, and women have had absolutely horrible experiences with men. But only one side is going to get the hit song of the summer, you know, talking shit about the other side. And so that's where I hear something like this, and it's like this. I mean, even gender war aside, this topic as a whole to me just comes off as harmful and borderline propagandistic. You know, so yeah, I think men should be aware of this, because I think it can be very tempting to brush songs off like this as harmless. And in fact, I think that's kind of the implication that is what I think men are supposed to take from something like this, is that, oh, it's not a big deal. Don't make it a big deal. It's fine. And I'm not saying that men should lose their minds and start rioting over music like this, but I think that there just needs to be an awareness of like, this isn't good for you. This isn't fun. Like, this isn't benefiting you. And I think a lot of guys have this idea that if they just brush it off and it's all fun and whatever, it's like, that's the better way to go about it. And maybe publicly it is, right? But internally in your mind, I think that you should be aware that this is misandry. This is mean-spirited misandry, coming from a very spiteful place, not just from like Sabrina on a personal level, but also from a music industry that is totally fine with promoting this as long as it's popular and women buy it, and women are buying it, and they will. Yeah. So for men, that's what I think. And then for women, I also think women should be aware. Like, I think women should acknowledge, like, this is harmful misandry and borderline propagandistic towards, propagandistic hate towards men. But even if you don't think it's misandry as a woman, I do think that this type of music is low IQ at the very least. It's the type of stuff that just turns your brain off. It fuels your animosity towards men. And it really kind of prevents you from engaging critically with men as a whole. Because if that's your view, right? Oh yeah, men are just these incompetent losers and it's all their mom's fault, and they're stupid and slow and useless and nothing gets done. It's like, that's really not true in a lot of ways. You might have experienced men like that in your life, and that's, I mean, most women have, but again, I think it's the type of thing where if that's going to become your view, it's not going to make your relationships with men better as a whole. I think music and art, like the music and art that you consume, is supposed to in some way teach you or stimulate you intellectually. It should make you ask questions and think about your life and think about the world. But if the art that you're consuming is just saying, oh yeah, you're great, but it's these other these Manchilds who are stupid and dumb and useless, fuck my life. Like, then if that's what you consume, then mentally you don't actually need to do any work. You just can turn your brain off and shit on men. And I think that ultimately makes you a worse person. And it makes you less critical. It makes you think less critically. It shuts off your engagement. And yeah, I mean, that's what propaganda is kind of supposed to do. It's supposed to reinforce biases that you already have in the worst ways, and teach you that you don't need to think deeply or critically about anything. So yeah, I think that this is a topic we can discuss forever, really. I mean, again, the gender war is like a huge thing right now with all the, feminism versus red pill and all of that crap. But like ultimately, like the best case scenario for this song is that it's shallow. It's kind of low IQ. It is very much just men are shit, and we're just going to talk about that. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But I think the more the more like dismal take is that this is what is the most this is the most popular thing in the music industry right now. And this is a perspective that record labels are more than willing to put out there, and as long as it gets them the views, and it is getting them the views. And whether you can say that that's a condemnation of men because there are so many women who relate to it, or it's a combination, or it's a condemnation of women who don't want to engage critically with men as a whole and are more than happy to just shit talk them. That's up to you, I guess. But I will say, I find it a little bit dismaying. A few weeks ago, I covered "The Wicked End" by Avenged Sevenfold, and it's a song about like the apocalypse and the end of the world. And I just think like it was a reminder to me going through that song that there's so many things that you can talk about as an artist, like, and to see that this is what we're going to go with. It's, I don't know. There's so much that you can do with music. And I think stuff like this is so shallow and hollow of any real meaning or depth that it's just kind of, I don't know. It's a little bit dismaying, a little depressing to see that this is the most popular thing that we've got. And even worse so because I think this song tries really hard to pretend to not be that. It tries hard to pretend like it's just this fun, like, oh, it's no big deal. But there was an assload of thought that went behind this, and work and effort and energy for months that went into making this the single and producing the music video and all of that. And it's, as a man, it's a little dismaying. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I don't want to harp too much on like, oh, Sabrina Carpenter's a misandrist. It's like, I don't even necessarily view this as Sabrina Carpenter's song. I don't think that she's this brilliant songwriter. I know like when I hear a Taylor Swift song, I know that Taylor Swift wrote that. I don't believe that yet about Sabrina Carpenter. So this isn't necessarily about her. This is more about the industry and the record labels that put stuff like this out and are more than happy to shit on men if it's popular. So yeah. Cool. Well, with that said, we can get into the chorus. Let's listen.
Slow. Maybe it's useless, but there's a cuter word for it.
Yeah, see, again, I know I just harped on it, but there's this element of like, if you're a man and you're hearing this and you're just thinking it's not that big of a deal, it's fun. It's like, I got news for you, man. Like, you got to rethink. You need to change your views of the music industry and who they prioritize and who they cater to and who they are willing to sacrifice, and talk shit about, because it's you. And it's again, a little dismaying, but yeah, let's keep going. Let's get into the chorus.
I know.
So yeah, again, these lyrics aren't necessarily like, they're not so damning. It's pretty standard stuff. It's obviously the song is called Manchild, so we're going to talk about man children. Why you always come a running to me? Fuck my life. Won't you let an innocent woman be? It's, again, par for the course for what we would expect on a song like this. It's not necessarily bad. It's definitely catchy. The vocal melody is super catchy and fun. The music sounds really nice and pleasant. And then halfway through, we actually get this really cool, like, musical break. Check it out. It'll start playing right now. Like that little pop. I like that. That's fun. Here, let's let it keep going. Yeah, so again, very, very reminiscent of Dolly Parton, maybe even a little. Like, I think the bridge is the most egregious offender of that, but there is this element of like, this whole song is very much Dolly Parton. So yeah, those fun little musical breaks, they're cool, but I do think that I think they're meant to contrast ironically with the kind of spiteful lyrics. Yeah, I think it's all just a little mean spirited. Most people will probably find it harmless and think that I'm way overdoing it. But yeah, it's just a little depressing to know that this is considered the safe route for a pop artist to go. Saying fuck my life, half your brain ain't there. It's like, all right, whatever. But again, women relate to it, so maybe it's the fault of men. I'll leave that one up to you. But yeah, we get into the post-chorus bridge here. Yeah, so I actually like that. Again, all the instrument players on this song are really good, and it's a lot of fun. Like, it's kind of got this dance house romp vibe to it, you know, having, you know, dancing around in the barn. So yeah, it sounds like it's both an electric guitar it's an electric guitar in the left ear and maybe a banjo playing along with it in the right ear. It's kind of tough to tell exactly, but here, listen. Yeah, something like that. But the two instruments are playing the same thing, and one's in the left and one's in the right. Cool stuff. But yeah, so then we get into verse 2. So there's, let's just play verse 2 real quick.
Why so sexy, you so dumb, and how survive the earth so long? If I'm not there, it won't get done. I choose to blame your mom, man.
So yeah, it's a short verse, and then we've actually gotten rid of the pre-chorus as well, which I find a little disappointing. I think the pre-chorus musically was the most interesting part of the song. But again, this song is like engineered to be fast, get the choruses out as quickly as possible so you remember them and they get stuck in your head. And then, you know, it is a pop song that is designed to keep moving and keep going. So that pre-chorus was a little long-winded, and so we're gonna axe it. But we with this verse, we actually changed the production on it. The production changed a little bit. So there's a short pause at the beginning, which is cool, especially coming out of the more intense electric guitar part. Here, hold on, let me point that out right here. And then drums come right back in very quickly. I think the idea behind that is that this whole section is meant to be a little bit more ethereal. There seems to be some extra production to the, like, far to the left and right speakers that almost sounds like it's got like a glittery twang to it. I can't tell if it's a banjo or what it is, but there's this glittery twang to it that makes it sound a bit more ethereal without losing that like barnyard romp vibe, right? Here, pay attention to that and listen for, again, it's like twinkles.
Why so sexy, you so dumb, and how survive the...
You hear that? Like, and it's very subtle, but I think, again, it gives the whole, section this more ethereal sound. I think it's also enhanced, like this section is also enhanced by a harmony on the entire vocal line. So she's harmonizing throughout this whole verse. So yeah, these little things like having that pause first off so that she can sing this soft melody, and then bringing the drums back in, having these little glitters off to the side, and then having that vocal harmony make this whole thing seem a little more storytelling, ethereal, like we're going into another world, which actually does fit in with the lyrics here on verse 2. Yeah, so the lyrics are, why so sexy if so dumb, and how survive the earth so long? If I'm not there, it won't get done. I choose to blame your mom. So let's, I think this is a good place to stop, especially because we've already made it through the chorus, and we can really talk about, like, let's really break down these lyrics a bit and what, like, the purpose of this song in a lot of ways. So to reiterate, or not even the purpose, I think actually more of the issue of this song. So to reiterate, like, these songs are mean-spirited, or these lyrics are mean-spirited. Even as someone who judges music rationally, and like that's kind of the goal of my channel. There's a part of me that can't help but be a bit dismayed by the spitefulness, especially considering that the song was engineered to be popular and successful, to the point where they brought in Jack Antonoff, who's one of the biggest producers in the world. I think the line like "How survive the earth so long" is particularly egregious, especially when you consider like the wonderful men who have given up their lives throughout history to ensure peace and to build the world that we have. There is a part of it. Maybe it's because I'm doing this episode on Father's Day where I'm just like, man, I really am tired of this type of messaging that men are just these useless creatures. There's so many wonderful men in the world that I know, and that you don't even need to know them personally to know that there's been amazing men throughout history who have done incredible things. It's just such a shallow take on men as a whole. But anyway, again, that's my personal feelings, and that's not what we're here to talk about. So let's not get hung up on that. Let's talk more bigger picture about Sabrina Carpenter. So right now, she is well on her way to become the biggest pop star in the world. If she wasn't already. I mean, last year, Espresso was the biggest song of the year. It was like, quote unquote, the song of the summer, right? And many of her other songs from the album, Short and Sweet, were massively successful. Like I think Taste in particular was a really big one, but there was a lot of them. So yeah, this song is meant to be the new lead single from her album, Man's Best Friend, which is kind of funny because the album cover has actually stirred up a little bit of controversy on its own, amongst women, which I find interesting. I want to talk about it. So the album cover shows her in kind of this, on her hands and knees in a little bit of like a doggy style position, with a man standing over her kind of off camera, right? But he's got his hand in her hair, almost as if he's like grabbing her head. And the album is called Man's Best Friend. And I think the back cover of the album is a picture of, it's like a zoom up of her wearing a dog collar that says Man's Best Friend, right? So the obvious, like immediate gut image, or the gut reaction to the image, I think, is the idea of women being in this submissive position compared to men who hold the power. I think that the cover is meant to, so like that's the obvious implication, right? It's like men have power over women. That's a tenet of feminism. I think that it's meant to be a little bit of an ironic play on this by, that's what she's trying to do by implying that she is actually the one who will hold the power in that dynamic, with the album titled Man's Best Friend. I think that's kind of evident. And then also with this lead single being Manchild, where clearly she's got the power over men in this song. But what's interesting, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, was that it's getting controversy from women because it seems to, the irony of it seems to have almost gone too far, to the point where it's actually evoking that power dynamic to the women who see it. And it's like a uncomfortable feeling that a lot of women are getting when they see the image of the, her on her hands and knees with a man grabbing her hair. Now that I think another element of this is like kink, right? There's a lot of women who have a submission kink, and they're, they'll see it and think like, oh yeah, that's kinky, right? That's a whole, I think that's one aspect of it that you can think of. Sabrina Carpenter has not been shy about her sex life and sexual desires in any of her songs. So you could definitely look at it from that angle too. But as a whole, the implication seems to be, or the cover seems to be implying the power dynamic. So that's kind of what I want to discuss, right? So yeah, there's this idea of Schrödinger's feminist. I don't want to get too deep into like gender war stuff, but I want to, I found it very interesting that the album art was actually getting controversy from women. And obviously the song Manchild, I think, could be considered controversial to men. And I want to talk about it because when you talk about like an album rollout and trying to build controversy and all of that around your album, it's hard to tell at this stage if it's working for her or not. But yeah, let's just discuss it a little bit. So there's this idea of Schrödinger's feminist, which is women have no power. So on one hand, women have no power, men hold all of the power, and that there is this glass ceiling that women are constantly trying to break through in order to achieve equality with men. But then there is this other angle, right, where women actually do have all the power. It's just soft power, and women actually are the ones who run the world and have secretly had all the power throughout history, right? Beyonce is the most blatant with that, like, who run the world, girls, right? So there's this dichotomy, right, with feminism, where it's like women are actually smarter and better than men at everything, and they've secretly had the power, but then on the other hand, they're constantly oppressed and they have no power. So that's kind of a summary of this concept of like Schrödinger's feminist. And I think that my theory here with why this album cover and this whole rollout for Sabrina Carpenter so far has gotten so much controversy is that she's kind of evoked both sides of that paradigm, and maybe not in a great way, but let's break it down, right? So let's just start with one angle, or the one side of it, which is women run the world. They have soft power over men, and even though men think they run the world, they actually don't, and women are smarter and better and all of that, right? Tons of songs have been written about this. I mentioned Beyonce's, Who Run the World, Girls. That's most blatant. Katy Perry had Women's World, but I don't think even women would relate to that one. That song was terrible. But yeah, so I think most women, when writing a song about that, about their power over men, I think they're very, the implication, right, is that they're the ones who are actually manipulating men. Like, men think that they've got the power, but they don't, and women are the real ones with the power. So when a girl writes a song about it, I think they're typically very careful to maintain that manipulation by not just outright insulting men, maybe only doing it subtly or with a little bit of finesse, right? And what this means is that typically the men don't care, because it's just men are a little more overt, I think, with the communication. And then the women get their new number one hit song and that they can sing along to. And it's typically all kosher, right? I mean, I've heard plenty of these songs throughout my life and they're fine. It's nothing that I'm going to like lose my mind over. I'm not going to lose my mind over any song unless it's good, right? But yeah, I think in this song specifically, Manchild, what's kind of interesting, and it's something that maybe drew me to it, was that it's very, it's like a bull in a china shop almost, right? Like, she seems to have really gone out of her way to insult men here. Just blatantly, like, stupid, dumb, how'd you survive on the earth so long? You incompetent, half your brains aren't there. And it's like, I think on one hand, it kind of breaks the illusion, right? And I think that that's something that men as a whole don't appreciate. Like, I can't imagine, again, I can't imagine how non-self-respect, how little you could respect yourself as a man to sing along with a song that is blatantly calling you stupid and dumb, right? But I think women, on the other hand, aren't necessarily keen on it either. It kind of exposes the soft power to a degree, which destroys soft power, because the whole point of soft power and manipulation, like the female manipulation, right, is that you can do it, is that it's kind of not, it's unsaid, it's unspoken, right? To be clear, just to be very clear, I'm not saying, oh my God, women are manipulators or whatever. I'm just saying that this is an element of, like, women absolutely have more social ability than men, and they can play on social dynamics much better than men do. So like, I'm not saying, oh my God, we gotta watch out for these manipulative, like, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there is this element of, like, how women operate that is different than men. And a lot of women typically take pride in the fact that they are able to, like, enter situations with men and use their heightened levels of social awareness to maybe, not necessarily to manipulate, but to maybe kind of lean things towards what they want. But I think Sabrina has kind of done the opposite of that. She's been very blatant here. Whether it works or not, I don't know. We'll see. I think the song's starting to get more and more popular, but initially it didn't seem to make the big splash that, like, Espresso did, but we'll see. But let's approach the other angle, right? Which is that the other angle of that Schrödinger's feminist, which is that, like, men have all the power and they systematically oppress women. Many topics or many songs are written about this as well. But one of the core ideas is the victimhood that women experience from this dynamic. And there are certainly a large number of women who have been, abused and hurt by men. And so in this side of the dynamic, right, women typically are oppressed. They don't want to be in that situation, and they are trying to break free of it somehow, of that oppression. I think a good example would be the song Labor by, oh man, what's her name? It's kind of a weird song, or a weird name. Paris Paloma, right? I think that was a song that came out a little while ago, last year, that spoke to the oppression of women and breaking free of that. I think in this case, with the album art that she's made, so on the one hand, right, talking about soft power, she's kind of destroyed that by just blatantly talking shit about men, which men don't appreciate. And I think even women are kind of taken aback by, like, it's not something that I see a whole lot of women like losing their minds over, though, again, could be wrong. Maybe this will be the new anthem, right? But then with the album art, I think that she's taken this genuine oppression of women by hurtful and abusive men, and then kind of turned it into something that could be playful or ironic. And I mentioned that kink aspect of it earlier, but it seems like the general consensus is that this is actually minimizing the oppression of women. In, like, from most women, that's how they're perceiving it. I think that even though they understand what she's attempting to do with the ironic power dynamic play, it seems like this album art is really coming off as just kind of patronizing and uncomfortable, right? Because the whole side of the feminism in this case is that women are truly oppressed, and Sabrina is almost being disrespectful by trying to imply that, like, this is but by purposefully portraying that and putting herself in a situation like that on her album cover and using it as a marketing tactic. And then on top of that, just from a man's perspective, the album art and all of the potential implications of it just kind of come off as like, I don't really care. It's more of like the feminist nonsense. It's like, okay, yeah, men again are the eternal villains, and now the most popular pop star in the world is going to write a whole album about how awful we are and how stupid and all of that we are. I think most men at some point just check out of music like this, which is fine. We're not the target audience. I acknowledge that. But I do want to point out, like, why would we listen to this, right? Like, is this something that's going to even appeal to us in any way? Who is this getting through to? I mean, is there seriously going to be like an abusive man who looks at this cover and thinks, man, really, I should stop abusing women, right? It just doesn't seem to accomplish much. So yeah, all of this is to say, again, I know I'm talking about some very broad concepts in a bit of an abstract way, but the main point I want to make is that it seems like she's kind of just made everyone, men and women, a little uncomfortable and kind of confused. I know I say that almost knowing that when the album comes out, it's going to be a smash hit. There will likely be songs that more explicitly address what's going on the cover, whether it's a kink or whether it's abuse. And women will almost certainly be head over heels for the songs. But at the moment, the way it is, it seems to just be coming off as kind of weird and strange and not in a particularly fun way. So yeah. That's kind of what I wanted to say about that. I think maybe the very final note on this is that this is, again, take this for what you want. I know there will probably be a lot of women who listen to this, but like, from a man's perspective, I do have to say that this back and forth of like men being both the all-powerful villains in women's lives, but also being these hopeless, bumbling idiots who are fools, I do think that it gets a little tiring as a man. I think that men, are responding to this less and less. The accusations and the pushback against us, which I actually think is what's prompting women like Sabrina Carpenter to be more extreme and on the nose with the messaging, but that really only drives us further away. So especially because songs like this aren't even really that great to begin with. It's a pretty mediocre pop song. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, why would I as a man want to be engaged or interested in this? I say that as I'm doing a whole podcast on it, right? But that I think it's an interesting topic to talk about. But most men aren't like me, and they don't have 15 years of music experience, and they can't break down a song and why maybe elements of it are working or aren't. Most men just hear a song like this and just kind of go, okay, yeah, whatever, and they just don't ever listen to it or think about it ever again. So if the goal, which I think the goal should be, to have better relationships between men and women and be able to have us work together. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that men don't have work to do, but I do think that albums and songs like this don't help. They further that divide. So yeah, that's it. That's kind of my spiel on all of that. Yeah, again, I think that's a more interesting topic or a more substantive topic than just addressing like the lyrics themselves. Obviously it's meant to be condescending. Why so sexy if so dumb, and how survive the earth so long? It's like, yeah, I get it. But what's actually happening here? What's the deeper dynamic at play? So anyway, second verse, that's pretty much it. Let me drink some water. Oh, okay. That was a long rant. All right. So second verse is very short and sweet. No pun intended. But so we get right back into chorus 2. Yep, big chorus, super awesome. I'm going to skip it though, because it's exactly the same as the first chorus. And we're going to go straight to the bridge. So let's play the first half of the bridge. Okay, so yeah, the music is essentially the same as the verse, so it's kind of funny, right? Like, whatever, it's the same as the verse. But she does go into this lower register, which sounds really nice. I mean, Sabrina Carpenter is a great singer, and she can hit all of these different, ranges and tones with her voice that's really cool. I think this section though is the most like on the nose Dolly Parton ripoff section of the whole song. It's very much, it just sounds exactly like Dolly Parton. And I think, it works well, but I think she needs to maybe find her own voice a little bit more. But anyway, there's not really too much to say about the music. So let's just talk about where we're at in the song, right? So the first two verses and the choruses have just been, shitting on men, right? But I think that the implication here is to soften the message of the song, like maintain the message, but soften it up a little bit, make it a little more fun. And you really hear that when the second verse comes in. Let's play this, or second bridge comes in. Let's listen to the second half of the bridge. Really nice little harmony ad libs, playing. If you listen in like the left and right ears, you'll hear her kind of doing those I don't know what you call it, like offset vocal lines from the main line. So here, to listen again. Competent. So again, this is one of those things where like we're softening it, we're making it like this isn't. I think the meaning of this section is that this song is not as serious as they purport it to be. It's meant to be kind of fun. So I just want to point something out here. This is something that's very common, right? It's like this idea that if you as a man takes a song like this seriously and express any sort of annoyance or disdain for it, you will be accused of being insecure or emotional about it. And I kind of disagree with that. I disagree with the whole premise. because personally, I think that if you're a guy who sings and plays along with a song like this, calling yourself stupid and saying you have half a brain, I personally think you're a fucking loser, and you're too stupid to realize that women are patronizing you. That's just that's my harsh, kind of brutal personal take on it. I think that songs like this are very hateful and spiteful. I don't think it's fun. I think that this song in particular is just a little bit too on the nose for me to actually appreciate as a like fun, song that you can just kind of vibe to, right? I wouldn't say this. I'm not saying this just exclusively because I'm a man. I personally don't listen to misogynistic music either. I'm not a big fan of it. Even like early Eminem stuff, I don't listen to a whole lot of it. I much prefer his later stuff where he's more technical and intellectual with the stuff that with his rhyme schemes and flows. I don't listen to a lot of gangster rap. I think that really any sort of song where you're just shitting on the opposite gender comes off as kind of shallow, and it's a really base topic. Love songs in general are very bland and run of the mill. It's like the lowest common denominator of songwriting or song topics and themes is to just shit on the other gender. But yeah, I think stuff like this, it's like if you're a man and you're cool with talking about how stupid and dumb and useless and slow you are, it's like maybe you need to take another look at, you should maybe re-examine that a little bit, because I just don't think any self-respecting man would listen to something like this and be like, yeah, that's my song. It's like, nah. But again, that's the dynamic, right? If you criticize it, there are probably plenty of people who would say that I'm coming off as insecure or whatever, but I'm just pointing out the reality of the song. It is absolutely meant to shit talk men, and I don't think you should listen to it. And I don't think women should listen to music that shit talks women. I think misogynistic music is bad too. We shouldn't do that. So yeah, anyway, with that said, I actually do think I'm in the minority, because I think that most men are just they just wouldn't think about this song. They just wouldn't acknowledge it as being a serious thing. And to be fair, I think most women wouldn't take it too seriously either. It's just a fun, playful song. That's what they would think. And it's just fine. But yeah, even in the song, right, to kind of drive home what I mean about this section being a little more, softening the message, right? There's even that little clip of the guys laughing towards the end of the bridge. Here, listen to it here. Oh, I went back a little not far enough. Here, try it here. Here, the guy saying, yeah, and he's just kind of laughing in the background. It's like, yeah. It's again, I think the implication is that, well, here, hold on. Yeah, the implication is that it's like, the guys are kind of just supposed to begrudgingly step in and dance with their girls and showing that they're not so insecure that little old Sabrina they're not going to let little old Sabrina bother them, right? It's like, that's kind of the implication of it. But again, I think that to me is personally a more insecure response. That means that you can't actually call out bullshit when you see bullshit. You're not secure in yourself enough to go with what your gut is telling you, which is that this song is insulting you and it is not a fan of you as a man. No matter how hard, especially at the end of the song, it tries to be that. Again, that's just kind of my personal take. I would just say, don't play the game as a man. If your girl wants to sing and dance to this song, she can do it by herself, because this is not an appropriate song when it comes to how to speak or how to treat men. I think it's definitely misandrist. So yeah, anyway, again, we kind of end the bridge with that big shout, hey man, as if it's like, yeah, we love you. You're great. You're just here. It's like, oh, amen. We love you, even though you're stupid and slow. It's like, I'm not buying it. Go listen to something else. Go listen to Avenged Sevenfold. Go listen to some metal, But anyway, okay, so let's get into the third chorus and then we can wrap this episode up. We got a little ad lib there. And we also have some extra instrumentation on this chorus just to make it really big and broaden the sound out. You can hear the banjos in the left and the right. I think this last chorus and the outro are like full on country dance house. We've really just embraced that here. And then here. So yeah, we conspicuously cut out the last two lines of the second half of the chorus where they talk about how men, half our brains aren't there and we never heard of self-care. And we keep kind of the more, again, the softer lines where it's like, man-child, why you always come running to me? Fuck my life. Won't you let an innocent woman be? Which could absolutely, like on the dance floor, be playful and fun between a couple. Again, that's kind of the goal with this, is to soften the message. Oh, we're not actually being serious. It's all just fun and games. But I don't buy it. This is very intentional. This whole song is very, very intentionally against men, because that is the zeitgeist. So yeah, we have this outro, which is essentially just a repeat of the second bridge with a little bit more vocal layering. So here, let's play that here. And then we get this nice little violin solo, which sounds great. And we just fade out very nicely. It's all fun, right? It's all fun and games. We're not being serious. Guys, we love you, you idiots. You klutzes, no brains. All right, so let's close this out. All right, so the purpose of this song is to be the lead single for the biggest pop star in the world right now, or one of the biggest pop stars. It is singularly designed to get as much traction and be as popular as possible. It accomplishes this by using controversial, blatantly misandrous lyrics, but also tries to maintain that it's just playful fun. And by striking the balance between those two, there's a very good chance this song will be very popular. The genre and style is country pop. It's definitely pop, but heavy emphasis on like the country dance rodeo, or what is it called? Like two-stepping. That's it. Like the two-step. Song structure is pretty okay. So the song structure is something I didn't talk too much about, but I actually think it's pretty cool. So it's relatively normal, right? But there is this. So you have a little instrumental intro, very short, like 10 seconds before the first verse. Then they have a pre-chorus and then a chorus. Pretty normal. Then they've got this little post-chorus bridge followed by a second verse, which goes straight into the second chorus. So they cut the pre-chorus, but the second verse actually has a completely different vocal melody than the first verse, which again is really cool. And then you have, after the second chorus, they go straight into the bridge, which is doubled, but with extra harmonies and stuff on the second half. And then you get half of chorus. The third chorus is actually half of a chorus, which is very interesting. Usually the last chorus is extended. It's like longer than most of it's doubled or extended out, but they actually cut it in half and just went right back into the bridge again. Really, I think to emphasize like the dancing and having fun at the end. Whether you think it's to cut the lyrics, I think it is to cut the lyrics because they're a little harsh. But you know, the same decision can accomplish multiple things at once. I think it keeps the song from going on for too long. Because I think if they had kept it, you know, the song as it is right now is about 3.5 minutes. If they had kept it, the song would have ended up being, hold on, let's just see, like 345, 350-ish. And I think that's just a little too long for a pop song, right? Like this. So yeah, that decision to cut the third chorus in half was kind of smart, and it accomplishes a lot of things, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think it was a good decision. And then having that outro kind of lets the fun atmosphere linger for just a little bit longer before the song ends. Compositionally, the music is all really fun, if a little bit basic. I think that the instrument players all sound great. The guitars and the violins and the banjo and all of that. It's really cool. And I actually appreciate a lot of it. I wish that it maybe was a little more on the, you know, there was a little more focus on it, but again, that's not the goal of songs like this, and I'm not the target audience. So yeah, with that said though, Sabrina Carpenter herself, her melodies are great. She's really good at like transitioning between different ranges, almost on the spot, right? Like that first verse, you know, You said your phone was broken, just forgot to charge it. It's like, it's really cool. The way that she can use her voice to get all of these different sounds, and especially when she starts layering. I mean, this is something I noticed in Espresso, where she just layers the hell out of her vocals, but they all serve a purpose, and they benefit the song as a whole in a lot of ways, right? So yeah, compositionally, there's nothing that's like mind-blowing on this song, but there isn't really anything that's bad either. It's all fun and well put together and well composed, and so I like it. The mix is kind of the same, where it's very well done. It's exactly what you would expect from like a song or artist of this caliber, right? I mean, there's going to be no mistake in the mix. The mix is going to be perfect on a song like this. So yeah, all the layers are great. They capture that live dance house bar feeling really well. Yeah, it's all very fun and energetic. Lyrical content. Yeah, I mean, if I'm just being straight up, it's spiteful misandry packaged as being cute and playful. It wants to pretend like it's actually a fun song, but I think that there is this, very this very like off-putting element to it when you start to think about it more and you dig into it. It's very hateful and very spiteful. And again, I'm not going to sit here and tell women that their experiences with men are unjustified, but I do think that songs like this are not going to help anything with anyone. This is the type of thing that will only reinforce animosities. And really, truthfully, if we want to talk about songs that, complain about men, right? I actually think there's plenty of other songs that do a better job of it too. I mentioned, Labor by Paris Paloma. I think that's a much better example of like the frustrations that women have with men, or at least it takes it a little bit more seriously. But regardless, like, again, women are going to eat stuff like this up, but I think that there comes a certain point where, fine, women are going to eat it up, but you as a man don't necessarily have to. Like, you don't have to listen to or enjoy songs that call you stupid or slow or useless. And that's just my personal take on it. So yeah, the theme of the song is men are bad, but sometimes they're sexy. So we kind of like them, but we wish we didn't. And, but we ultimately do want them to still come and dance with us when we're at the bar. But also we do think that they're stupid and useless. So it's like, whatever. That seems to be the theme and the idea. I mentioned this when I was talking about verse 2, right? Where I think that she was a little too on the nose with this one. Now, whether or not it will matter in the grand scheme of things, it probably won't. I think this song is probably still going to blow up, but I don't know. I think it's, again, kind of thematically, I think it's just interesting. I mean, I can't imagine there being too many men who would listen to something like this and just be like, yeah, totally. But then I think most people would look at what I'm saying and everything that I've critiqued about the song and the themes and the lyrics here and say that I'm the insecure one and that I'm the one who's, making a bigger deal out of it than it actually is. And it's like, well, that's not really true. There was millions and millions of dollars in production and artist work and songwriting and music video making that went into this. Sabrina and her team clearly think that this is all a very big deal. It's not just this cute, playful song. It is a very, very serious song for her. It's the first big hit, for her new album after Short and Sweet, which was one of the biggest albums ever. This is kind of a make or break album for her. If it's not a hit, then she'll just be a passing fad. And if it is a hit, she could be the next big pop star of our generation. This is not an innocent little song from a girl with an acoustic guitar writing songs in her bedroom. This is a very serious production and will determine in a lot of ways like the future of pop music, at least for the foreseeable future, right? The next year or two. So yeah, it is a big deal. And I don't think that I'm stepping out of line or going overboard by analyzing it as a big deal and as something that they probably spent a ton of time working through and developing to make sure they got it right. So yeah. With that said, the final like artistic merit for it, I will say that for a pop song, it's pretty well put together, but it's definitely not revolutionary. I think that her vocals are maybe a little bit too close to Dolly Parton's, and the instrumentation is, it is fun and it's good and it accomplishes what it needs to accomplish, but it is a little basic. I think the song structure is very interesting and unique. I especially like that they cut that third chorus in half because it keeps the song moving, but it's still fun and it's a big moment. It's like a suitable ending to the song. But I do think that the lyrics kind of destroy it though. I think it's too obvious. And I don't think that any true self-respecting man would sing along with something like this. And I think even more importantly, I don't think a woman who respects her man would sing this song to him, which is an element I don't think I really talked about. But it's like, can you imagine, your wife singing this to you and thinking it's all like, obviously, here's the thing. Obviously, if both of you are kind of on the same page that it's stupid and it's a dumb song and it's a little misandrous, it's like you can joke about it, right? But can you imagine like a woman singing this song unironically, or like enjoying this song unironically when she has a man? I can't imagine any man who would appreciate that or be okay with it. So yeah, I think that's just a little bit of a letdown and also a kind of a depressing sign of where we're at with the music industry, that this is the zeitgeist. This is the attention grabber. This is like what gets views and what a record label and the most popular producer in the world and the biggest pop star and what all of them scientifically, tested and think is the way to get the biggest song of the summer is to just make a song that just blatantly shits on men. Yeah. So kind of wild. Imagine if Zach Bryan worked with Jack Antonoff to write a song about how, it's called like Stupid Women. And it literally talks about how women are stupid and slow and useless. It's like, that would be unbelievable. It would never happen. And so, yeah, make of that what you will, dear listener. But ultimately, I think that this is the type of song that you should just kind of avoid. Even if you take all the gender politics out of it, it's not really like a special song anyway. If you want country, go listen to better country, go listen to Dolly Parton. And if you want pop, go listen to better pop. And if you want better music, go listen to metal, because it's always better than any of this schlop. So, all right. Anyway, I think that's good. That's a suitable way to end it. Hope you all enjoyed it. Again, I'm not like trying to unpack the gender war or anything, but I think that a song like this kind of, shoves it in your face in a lot of ways. So we got to talk about it. Cool. All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. And leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you on the next one. Bye.